Bitcoin's pathway to legitimacy does not require validation. And that's just my opinion when you're looking at trading, but it's also true for the long term view on Bitcoin. But right now is a great moment to talk about Bitcoin's current structure because we need to keep in mind the bigger picture and how that influences the micro view of Bitcoin because we have a lot of, and I keep saying this so many videos, we have a lot of really positive news articles coming out when Bitcoin is currently overextended in the short term. Of course, Bitcoin can still rally a whole lot. It still has a lot more to run this year. But the reason a lot of these articles and just, you know, what is being out thrown out there in the media can be very, very dangerous for a lot of people that can't sustain volatility, especially if they buy and they start seeing some red shortly after. So I want to kind of talk about that, right? Because you have articles like this one where saying to buy BTC, not to sell. Robert Kiyosaki, that's fine if for long-term views. Um, what about over $5 billion pouring into Bitcoin ETFs thanks to bold directional bets? And every day we see a lot of these positive articles and I agree with them that, it's a great time to buy Bitcoin. We're still decently under all time high. And I'm expecting Bitcoin, and I'm going to get this out the way. I'm expecting Bitcoin to go much, much higher um, this year. And this is actually filling this green all the way up to 150K is actually my conservative view on Bitcoin going forward throughout 2025. But this is the thing that's dangerous for if you guys aren't familiar with the term paper hands, is basically people that it doesn't matter if you believe in Bitcoin or not, but you believe that it's going to go up a lot more. But when you start seeing some negative days, it's paper hands instead of diamond hands, right? So paper hand means you sell very easily because you start seeing some red and you can't handle the volatility. So when it comes to short-term trading, we need to keep in mind something we see very often in Bitcoin, and we see this a whole lot. We saw it back in 2024 when Bitcoin went up a lot and it had a correction, and then during this correction, when we started seeing signs of bullishness to finally get out of deep discounted levels to make a significant new all-time high, we start seeing things like previous resistances starting to break and Bitcoin going much higher, creating a higher high from previous structures, and then it eventually has a correction because every just like this right here, and this is going to make sense right now in the current picture as well. But if you have aggressive rallies into a retracement, or not retracement, into a resistance area, eventually you'll see a proper retracement happen. Now, during this time, you had a lot of these like quick pullbacks and the price kept rallying higher. Eventually, it won't have a quick pullback. It would actually correct itself more significantly to fill in a proper retracement area. In this case, this right here will be this orange three lines you're seeing where it comes down to just about the 0.5 retracement and it goes up higher. Of course, eventually we retest just underneath the 0.5, which is ideal. We want to see the more extreme side of any fib tools being filled. It just causes a much more confident setup when you start seeing the extreme side of it get filled for whatever direction the price is favoring. In this case, it was bullish, so we saw the discounted lower half filled before we go up higher. And we're starting to see something very similar this year. And again, this is going to make sense when I get into the micro picture, where we see Bitcoin go up a whole lot. It went up a whole lot, finally broke over 100K, significantly over $8,000 above 100K, before it had, sideways consolidation and then a big move down to factor in this big move that we saw, not that long ago. And now we, like, how do I say this? Like we finally have deep discounted Bitcoin presenting itself for quite a bit of time. And now I'm going to show you guys on the Tether chart just because it has less stuff drawn on the chart that I can kind of show you guys. where we see deep value Bitcoin present itself for a decent amount of time, and then a big rally, significant rally that's able to break all of these previous resistances. Like we're almost back at all-time high. All of these previous resistances were broken, not enough volume within them to want to cause the price to come down. But now, just like, you know, looking at not bearish, bullish confirmation for the price to go higher, this is what we're looking at now. So we have there's two levels of confirmation. There's breaking previous resistances, to which we did. We broke previous resistances, all of them basically. Which is the first level, shows that there is a lot of bullish momentum. Second level is being able to hold a proper higher low. So back here in 2024, we broke up higher, breaking past previous resistances. So the first level was broken, or first level was complete successfully, I should say. Second level of bullish confirmation will be having a proper retracement, which holds a higher low. So as you can see, this was the first higher low that was formed. We want to make sure that it can confirm itself by making a higher high, and then most importantly, a higher low, which the next rally will break past, the previous or the first higher high, to then confirm that, hey, there is a lot of bullish momentum and deep value Bitcoin is in the past for sure. I right now I do believe Bitcoin deep value is in the past, and there's no reason to worry about it too much. But what we have here is we're seeing smaller higher lows being made where they're not significant dips. None of these. So this area of consolidation and this area of consolidation did not have any price dips that filled in a proper retracement. And for those of you that are new to the channel, I'll show you. I've done this before, but I'll show you right now. This whole move higher, as you can see, never filled. It never filled a proper retracement. If we go up here to the next rally, and never the lows right here, right? It really didn't fill in any proper retracements. The whole rally, as you can see, still didn't, it never came down into it properly. And then if we consider the most recent rally, from here, it went up into it, and it never came back down into it again. And then the most smaller picture, rally structure will be this blue area, which hasn't been really properly filled yet either. Now the whole rally higher is this whole move, which is being factored in by this, red retracement area right here. So what I'm trying to say is that, without repeating myself too much, this orange area overlapping with this red area is the proper retracement. Eventually, actually, if you look even closer, the price bottomed out perfectly, just about perfectly. It didn't hold a candle below it, but it did break the 1.618 retracement and 59,070. Just about perfect, filled it in, found support, and then it started going up much, much higher. So the way this influences the current price right now, and why it's so important to understand the smaller picture to better understand the bigger picture, is that if we have a, in this case, bullishness, which is breaking past previous resistances, it is, in my opinion, silly to want to get in some short-term trades with aggressive position sizing, because yes, we are much higher, but we haven't had a proper retracement. And until we find support within the proper retracement, which will be this area, there's no fundamental reasons to say that, hey, Bitcoin is going to go much, much higher, because what if this area breaks? This is why it's so important to wait for the price to come down, accumulate, wait for the price to eventually break out of the red, and then use the top line as a support and continue to push up higher. That will be the second level of confirmation, because yes, the price can continue to go up much, much higher, but just like pretty much, the word in Wall Street is you want to buy low and sell high. So right now we are much higher. We haven't had a proper retracement. We're really well overextended. All the previous resistances were broken. So right now, to buy aggressively just seems very, very silly. You are literally doing the opposite of buying low and selling high. You're buying high with the understanding that these fluctuative assets like to fluctuate quite aggressively, and the price likes to eventually balance itself out quite well. So what I'm trying to say right now is that I do believe Bitcoin is going to go much, much higher. But if you're looking to trade short term, um, we don't really have a whole lot of reasons to say that the price will go up much higher. What we do have is that we do have the possibility of retesting previous swing high right here at 105,678, and potentially even testing not just all-time high, but this previous significant resistance area, which this was when the price confirmed that it is going to be moving down. So this is a very strong resistance, and then all-time high. But instead of being overly hopeful and overly influenced by current media titles to want to buy aggressively because Bitcoin is going to keep going higher, yeah, it absolutely could. But look at the current structure we have, where we're starting to have the first triangle pattern. We haven't seen a very significant triangle, but this one's kind of, it looks more like this right here, where the bottom is right here. We haven't seen this happen in a bit. We really haven't seen a proper triangle pattern happen in a while. And previously, every time we did see like really good triangle patterns like this one right here, it broke down to the downside, and this one right here broke down to the downside as well. And I'm not saying it has to, but when you factor in the VIX, the VIX is pretty much flat. It is very, very low. It can easily bounce up at any point, and cause a lot of these growth assets to begin to sell off. But the question is, well, are we going to see like the VIX go up and then a lot of money comes out of the broader market, like the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq, and flows into alternative assets, for stocks like gold and Bitcoin? Yeah, that's absolutely possible that the VIX can go up and it will actually cause Bitcoin to go up. But if you kind of weigh out the risk and the risk, and what really makes sense is, yes, that could happen, but it doesn't make a whole lot of sense for this to happen when Bitcoin is overextended in the short term. The moment the VIX starts to bounce up, we can easily see Bitcoin fall. And this will allow us to begin accumulating Bitcoin at really, really good deals. Not just accumulating potentially like in this red area, like I believe will happen, but it will also start giving us a chance to accumulate where there can be a potential reversal point. So the moment the price hits the zero point 0.5, or even between 0.618 and 0.5, it can even drop slightly below. It can go down to 85K, which will be more ideal, because there's this really, really good consolidation area which can act as a strong support down here at 85K. So yeah, the VIX going up can flow money out of the S&P and Nasdaq and put money into Bitcoin. Of course, it absolutely could, but it doesn't make a whole lot of sense for that to happen. It doesn't happen every time. But right now, with Bitcoin being overextended with no proper retracement in place, it will make more sense that the VIX will actually work against Bitcoin, and instead money will flow out of a whole lot of different assets, right? And the US dollar is creating somewhat of an uptrend. This is not super significant right now with Bitcoin, unlike the VIX, where VIX can easily pop up, cause a lot of money to flow out of these growth assets. But this is a good thing, because if you are being patient, you know that, hey, I'm gonna wait for the price to come down to a proper support so I can buy low, instead of being hopeful, buying now and hoping the price makes significant just new legs up higher, whatever the term is, because it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to buy aggressive. You could buy small long positions, and I've been saying this in a lot of other videos, where you can buy small long positions with a tight stop loss where micro supports are, and try to capture reasonable upsides, maybe back up to the previous swing high. That's absolutely appropriate, and it'll make a really good trade even if the SL gets triggered, because you're taking proper measurements, having a tight stop loss, and then knowing where you want to sell. So we can easily fill in this green area. But overall, the picture for me is, I'm waiting for the price to come down, have a proper retracement, so that I can buy low instead of aggressively buying high, I would rather aggressively buy low so we can make a new higher low right here. Um, watch for a higher low to be formed, so then the price can do something like this, where it finds support and then it goes up into a significant new all-time high. So I'm just trying to express cautiousness with overextended prices in the short term, and a lot of articles pushing hype into into everyone's mind. The price is going to do what it wants to do regardless of what the articles say. So yeah, hopefully you guys are staying patient. Hopefully you guys are understanding that, hey, it's very important not to be aggressively invested in Bitcoin for the short term. Right now, for some short term trading, it's probably better to wait for proper setups to present themselves. Um, and I wouldn't even short just yet, because it's better to be, in bearish confirmation territory where we start seeing micro supports broken, which should create the momentum needed to come down. And a lot of that's being represented in the Bitcoin liquidation heat maps as well, where we can easily see the price come down and, start testing the premium section of this red area. You guys can look at like the 1 month um, liquidation heat maps, and on I think it's CoinGlass, and you guys can see what I'm talking about as well. But yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this video, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.